My name is Vanessa K, and I've been coming to Emmanuel since 2017. And I am a grief share leader, and I help occasionally with the e-church or the e-children. I first heard about Emmanuel by being invited to the Christmas program by my cousin, and then that's basically when I started coming to Emmanuel, and off and on, but then I came consistently and faithfully since 2017. Before Christ, I didn't know the relationship to have with God, but I knew who God was. I just didn't have that relationship. My senior year, I was pregnant and then led into a toxic relationship. And then I found myself, I wanted to party a lot, drank on the weekends, although I had two jobs and I was still going to school, but I eventually found myself being a single mom. And so partying, I think, was my answer to my needs to, that's going to make everything okay, but then to wake up to find out the problems were still there, financially, hardships. Just didn't know where I was going. I hit rock bottom, or I thought so, one weekend where I had a party at my house and I had, I guess, too much to drink. And a good friend of mine happened to be a police officer, had rode by, noticed that my door was wide open. So we had a heart-to-heart conversation, and being a single mom, I knew that my life had to change for my son, but also for me. And then in 2008, I met a wonderful guy that helped raise Skylar. And fast forward to 2012, I had another son who is Mateo. And then fast forward to 2016, things start falling apart. I found out that I was being cheated on, and soon after that, I just was praying to God. I cried because I didn't want to be alone again. I didn't want to be single mom all over again. And I just remember crying and weeping to God, asking him to help me and what's my purpose here, and to show me if I could really do it again on my own. I just remember just crying, and I think that's what he was waiting for, is for me to cry out to him instead of going back to drinking and to partying or finding love at the wrong places, because I felt like I was in different relationships for the wrong reasons, or I always wanted the bad guys, I should say. And soon after that, I moved out. Basically didn't really have a house to go to because I had sold my previous house. So I felt like I was homeless. And then God answered. I decided to move out. Next day, someone had called and said that I could rent their place out. And then shortly after 2 weeks, my significant other passed away. And in that time, before that, I was praying to God, asking him to bring him home, thinking it was going to be my home. But he took him home to where he needed. A family member pulled him out of his car. He passed away in a tragic accident. And a family member pulled him out, and they led him into the Lord's Prayer. They asked him if he believed in God, if he accepted Christ, to squeeze, and they said it was a faint squeeze, but he squeezed their hands, and shortly after he had passed away. I learned about forgiveness through this. Prior to that, I held grudges. I went and talked to a certain person, but through it all, up until the funeral, I knew that that's when God was working on me. When I say forgiveness, I forgave the other girl. Come funeral time, she came in and I just hugged her and told her that she was forgiven by God, and that she needed me to reach out And the next day I did rededicate my life to Jesus, because I had planned on getting baptized, and I wasn't going to let the devil stop me from being baptized. So I got baptized the day after the funeral. I feel that if I didn't have God, I would have gone back to my old ways, which were insecurity, anxiety, worrying, all the above. But because I started having that relationship with God, I felt that He showed me love, He showed me forgiveness, He showed me grace and mercy, and that's who I am now, that I forgive easily now, and I know that I'm worthy, and I know that the person that, when I am depressed, or not depressed, but when I do have an answer or need an answer, I go to Him, and maybe not in my timing, but in His timing, He'll provide that answer to me. But I think if I didn't have God in my life before grief, I don't know how far I would have gone. As far, I think I would have just been back how I was 20 years ago, back to the party and back to finding love in the wrong places, or thinking that was love. Being in abusive, physical, emotional relationships. But now I think it's important, not just for me, but for everyone, to know their value, their worth, and that it's worth to stay obedient and to love God and be more intimate with God in the world. Since I have a relationship with Christ, I do feel the difference between my older son and my youngest. My older son, we were all raised to grow up where you keep everything in the house, you don't say anything, you don't talk about your feelings, where I feel bad because with my older son, I kept everything in. I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't show him that it's okay to cry. I didn't show him that it's okay to talk to someone. Now with my younger one, he was 3 when everything happened, and when I was going through the grief, and we still are, but he sees me crying. I tell him that it's okay to cry, to talk about it. I don't hide anything. If I have in a moment of grief, I cry in front of him and let him see the tears, to let him know that it's okay. And I try to tell that to my oldest, but I feel that when everything happened, it was a little too late. So that's one regret that I won't make with the youngest, because I believe that males should be able to speak how they feel, and they should be able to cry. And I'm not trying to stereotype, but I feel that it's, you know, in my era when I was growing up, men don't cry. I don't want that for my son. And I feel that should go for everyone in general, but mainly for the men out there, that it's okay to cry, to talk about your hurt, to talk about your feelings. And that's where I feel that there's a difference between my oldest and my son and my youngest son. And there's often times where the youngest one will come to me and he'll just say, "Mommy, I'm just sad. I don't know why." And I know majority has to do with his dad. And I will sit there and I'll tell him, "It's okay to cry, bud. Just let it out." And he'll cry. But it's, I think that's just an important thing in life, is to talk to someone, you know, besides God and going into prayer, is to let your story, let your problems, let your hurt, let your, you know, whatever you're going through, let it be your testimony, because your pain is on purpose and it's not going to be wasted. It's to help someone out. I think that's why we're all here, is to help someone else out to get closer to God. Being a part of the grief ministry and being the leader, my faith has gotten stronger. I also, when I hear their stories, they're helping me as well with my faith, and just talking to each other, because if you haven't gone through grief, if you haven't lost anything, someone may not feel or can relate to what you're going through. But if you've gone through the same grief, the same emotions, that you can relate more, and you can know that it's okay to go through the roller coaster of emotions that we go through. But it's brought me stronger into my faith, because I always pray to God to put it on my heart, and to see them heal, going through the whole process, going through small group of grief, and seeing the end result is what I get the glory of, and it's God's glory that they're healed. The Bible verse that impacted me the most is Proverbs 3:5. Lean not on your understanding, but trust the Lord with all your heart. Because I feel that we're not going to understand why things happened. And if we did, is it going to change their circumstances? Is it going to change your feelings? We just have to trust God and give it to God. And it's okay to ask Him why. You just got to trust Him. But like I always tell my grief share group is, if you knew the whys, would it change how you feel? Words of encouragement that I would like to give someone that wants to tell their testimony that doesn't feel comfortable is to always know that God is working when things are uncomfortable, but more importantly that you're a disciple and your story is going to be powerful and it's going to impact someone, and don't be scared to tell it. There's someone else out there that it's going to impact and that they need you. They need your story to get closer to God, to give them hope. And this is my story.